For everyone who's new here to our Roads to Climate Solutions events, we are an Alberta-based nonprofit organization that operates out of the Stettler Learning Center. And we host workshops, field days, and webinars across the entire province, empowering people with climate solutions. So we work primarily with agricultural producers and rural Albertans to create a space for discussions to happen about climate solutions. And we are always strong advocates of the idea that climate solutions can also be your farm solutions. So welcome to our water management webinar today on pond levelers with Katie from the Peace Country Beef and Forage Association. I got to watch Katie's performance on the PCBFA's pond leveler pilot project earlier this spring, and it was really great. So I'm so excited that we get to share it again today with everyone here. And before I start talking too much more, I think now would be a great time to pass things over to Katie. So Katie, I'll let you take things over from here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marie. And thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak to your water management webinar series today. It's very exciting whenever we get to share some of our work with other groups. So my name is Katie Mclaughlin, and I am currently the operations manager for Peace Country Beef and Forage Association. My background is in agriculture. I was born and raised here in Fairview, Alberta on my family's cattle ranch, and I do still ranch with my brother. We're running between the two of us a couple hundred head of cows. And my background in education-wise is I actually have a degree in agriculture business. And once I got to work, I've been working with Peace Country Beef and Forage Association for about the past 5 years, and have really kind of gained a real passion for the environmental impact of beef production and how cows and beef production can actually be used to be climate smart. So it's really exciting work that we're doing here with Peace Country Beef and Forage Association, and I'm really excited to share some of it with you today. So today we're going to be talking about our Beaver Pond Leveler project, which was a partnership with Northern Sunrise County's ALICE program. I believe Becky is on the call today. Hi, Becky. And the Land Stewardship Center. So we got funding for this through the Land Stewardship Center. But before I get too far into that, I just want to kind of talk about Peace Country Beef and Forage Association, who we are and what we do. So Peace Country Beef and Forage Association, it's a mouthful. I will be shortening it down to PCBFA for today's purposes. So we are a producer, organized, unbiased, applied research and extension group focusing on beef and forage and crop production and environmental resiliency here in the Peace River region in Northern Alberta. So we cover an area of 10 municipalities up here. Our area kind of goes from Manning on the north end south to about Valley View, and from the BC border to the eastern shore or to the western shores of the Slave Lake. So we cover a very large area up here in the Alberta Peace region, and we do work a lot with our municipalities to, So we are led by farmers, and we are here for farmers. So we are run by a board of directors, and it is formed of producers from across the Peace region who actively voice their questions and ideas and concerns to address the needs of the beef industry in the Peace. We have the goal to be a Peace Country producer's first stop for optimizing beef, forage, soil health, and crop production to maximize profitability with innovative and credible information. So everything that we do here, we do a lot of applied research, we put on a lot of events, and everything we do here can be tied back to a conversation with a producer at some point in time. So we are working really hard to make sure that we are bringing relevant information to our producers, and information that's going to maximize their profitability, it's going to protect the environment, and it is just going to enhance the sustainability of our rural communities. We are one of 12 other groups in Alberta. So there is quite a network of applied research associations through the ERICA group as well as the Farm Right group. So if you're not from the Peace region, but are interested in getting in touch with one of our sister associations, my contact information will be at the end. I'd be happy to connect you with an association in your area if you're interested in anything I talk about today. So let's get right into it. Beavers. Love them, hate them. They are a part of our ecosystem. This meme kind of sums it right up. It's a little crass, but yeah, beavers are ecosystem engineers. And they are mostly known, especially in the agricultural community, as a bit of a pest. I do just have a quick YouTube video here that we're going to watch that really just sums up beavers in about 2.5 minutes. So let me know, Murray, if you don't have audio on this.
And there's nothing that I can do except live with scummy water on my property.
A Jefferson County woman fed up with her property, or more specifically, the water that's on it. She says that she's been told the problem stemmed from some beaver dams in the surrounding land. Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Bob Foster.
And I'm Ashley Ketz. The woman sat down with her, Caitlin Reardon, today. And Caitlin, you were told she's been having some trouble fixing this issue.
That's right, Bob and Ashley. As you mentioned, she says it's not a human responsible for causing that issue, but people are the ones that can help her get some relief. And she says that is where she's struggling.
Concrete slabs are breaking, plants are, dying. My animals can't utilize the yard.
Those are just a few of the smaller issues that Laura Wise deals with because of the standing water on her property in Jefferson County.
Continuously, water with scum in it.
She says it started almost 3 years ago, but the problem's gotten progressively worse.
You can see back here the scum.
She says she was told by the Army Corps of Engineers the water won't drain because of beaver dams on other properties in the area. Some owned by Union Pacific Railroad and the rest by a local landowner.
And you can see, where the water is, but it's usually much higher.
Wise says she's had to replace some pumps for her septic system annually because they constantly run when it's flooded. She's also had the problem get so bad she has watermarks on walls inside her house from flooding.
This is damaged wood from water.
According to her, other neighbors are also affected.
2 farmers that have land underwater that they cannot farm. There's one man that has timber that he's losing on a daily basis.
County trucks were out clearing ditches on Tuesday to try and divert the water toward the highway. She hopes this will help, but ultimately, Wise wishes the landowner would destroy the beaver dams on his property.
From what I understand, he's within his legal rights.
While it may be legal, she wants him to be a good neighbor and think of others.
Horrible. I mean, I just feel completely stressed every day. Oh, I just want to be able to use my property.
Now, that landowner told me that he has dismantled some of the beaver dams on his property, but not all of them. And Union Pacific says that its track maintenance manager and a pest control expert will visit those culverts this week to deal with any of the beaver dams that are there. Typically, they inspect those culverts about once a year. Bob.
This is the checkers game where grandson and granddad will bond.
Okay, so that is nothing new about beavers. We've all heard and have experienced likely flooding due to beavers, and they are definitely seen as a bit of a pest. So traditional beaver control methods, when we do have this stuff happening, we trap them. There's relocation, and some of our Northern Alberta favorites is blowing them up. And there's some pretty epic YouTube videos out there, but there is a better solution out there. And that's what this project was all around. Beavers are a very important species in our ecosystem. They're a capstone species. They are ecological engineers. They are the most advanced engineers after humans. They have really formed a lot of the ground beneath our feet, especially here in Canada, especially here in the north. So there's actually been research done by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency that the area around beaver dams are among the most biologically productive ecosystems in the world, comparable to coral reefs and rainforests. Coral reefs and rainforests have a lot of different species. They have a lot of biodiversity. So to have beaver dams ranked in there, they're evidently very important species. Beavers are a super important part of our ecosystem. They create these diverse habitats, they increase the biodiversity, they regulate stream flow, they improve our water quality. I like to call them kind of nature's Brita filter because they are a very important part of our natural water filtration system. They stabilize the water table, they repair eroded stream channels, and they restore watershed and wetland health. And the best part is they do this all for free. If we were to do all of this work that a beaver can do themselves in say like a wetland restoration project, to be able for us to do what a beaver can do would cost hundreds of thousands up to millions of dollars. So why not just work with the beaver rather than against the beaver? So that's where pond levelers come in. And what is a pond leveler? I get asked this question quite a bit when talking with producers about beaver management. It's like, have you ever considered a pond leveler? So a beaver pond leveler is a mitigation device that is actually installed right into a beaver dam that's causing issues with flooding. So this pond leveler will basically create a permanent leak through a beaver dam that the beavers cannot stop. So the beavers are unaware of where the water is flowing from, therefore they cannot stop it. And that allows us to maintain a proper height on a beaver dam. If it's maintained, they'll last forever. They are not a zero maintenance thing. They do require a bit of maintenance, but they do last a long time if maintained and looked after. And yeah, they help mitigate the flooding. They're a great little device. So how do they work? At the bottom there's a little, this is just a little diagram of one from beaversolutions.com, which is a great website if you're interested in checking out some more information about beaver pond levelers. So in order for these devices to work, the beavers cannot know where the water is leaking from. So we put a flexible pipe and submerge it in a beaver pond. And the intake end, which is where it has this mesh fence, a lot of times we just use like page wire or hog panels or something. And we submerge the intake end 20 to 40 feet from the beaver dam. So it is going to be submerged in the deepest part of the pond, far away from the dam, so that there's no rushing water sound that the beaver can stop. And if the beavers do discover where it is, they have this fenced off portion where they can't plug it off. There's always going to be water being able to be intaked into that pipe, and the water is going to flow. And the outtake is actually buried within the dam, and wherever this outtake pipe is installed, that is going to be the level of the pond. So it's basically a siphon effect up and out of the pond. So the water level will not get below the height of that outflow, because then it can't flow right. So they're very simple. They're very quick to install, and actually not too expensive to do. It's just to kind of take the time to wade out there and sink this pipe is the biggest pain in the butt. But they're very simple and work very well. So our project that we're talking about today, this was a partnership with Northern Sunrise County's ALICE program. So with Becky DeValora, hi Becky. This all started with at another event that we kind of co-hosted together, and we got talking about all of the water running in the ditches and all of the erosion that we're seeing coming off of fields, and we're seeing like a lot of like streams that typically like kind of were ephemeral streams, where they flowed off and on, and now they're these great big gorges. They're getting eroded out. Like we got water flowing like crazy, and part of the reason is because we're blowing up beaver dams, and this water has no chance to stop, no chance to slow down. It just keeps running until it hits the river. So we got talking about beavers and beaver pond levelers, and how cool it would be to partner on, this was originally supposed to be like a beaver pond installation demo day, where we invited people out and we installed a beaver pond leveler and showed people how to do it. However, due to COVID, we had to eliminate the event portion of this event, unfortunately, and we just wound up just installing beaver pond levelers. So we did this with the intention of trying to increase interest from producers about dealing with beavers. So this is how we advertised, how we were looking for producers. We had some producers in mind. However, they were less than willing to work with us. So we actually put this out on Facebook, this little graphic, asking people to approach us. And we lucked right out and found a fantastic landowner. So landowners we wound up working with were Billy and Diane Cyrene out of St. Isidore, Alberta. They had recently moved to this property. It's a quarter section with hay and this beautiful wetland that flows through it. They themselves are nature enthusiasts. Billy was once a hunting guide. They're avid hunters. And they love the little bit of nature that they have on their land. They bought the place because it attracted the wildlife. There was great big moose there. They have lots of bear, lots of waterfowl. However, they have a lot of beaver dams, and they were really, really sick of beavers. And they actually had dealt with some of their beaver dam problems where they actually took out some dams. They didn't blow them up, but actually had used like an excavator to tear out some of these dams. And they reached out to us because they were noticing some changes that they didn't like with their beaver management strategy. And they were interested in working with the beavers rather than against them, because working against them just wasn't working for them anymore. So this was our project site. This is an aerial view of it. So all of these blue lines are water runs. The red lines were beaver dams. And yeah, there was just a lot of beaver activity here, as you can see. So their house is right here. And all this land around here is all hayed in the summertime. Down here, there's a fair-sized wetland that I believe Becky is actually working on a bit of a wetland restoration project, which is really exciting. So hopefully that goes through. It's very wetland all through here. So we walked into all this stuff. This is a very old beaver dam up here, very, very old, like ancient. There's a big beaver pond behind it. This is an abandoned dam back here where it was broke through and they never came back and fixed it. Same with this dam down here, both abandoned. This dam here is actually the dam that we put the beaver pond leveler in. So I'll kind of come back to it. And this dam here was once a huge dam that they took out with an excavator and actually drained a huge beaver pond here, which I'm going to get into on our next slide. And then this one more thing. The reason that they called us was because this little stream here, this little stream was backing up and it was flooding out a huge chunk of their land here. There's a big chunk of land here that they cannot, it's permanently wet now. And in the spring during runoff season, a lot of the drainage coming out of the ditch, coming out of their neighbors' fields to the north and the east of them, was actually flooding. It was backing up. It was flooding across into the neighbors' fields and stuff. So they were dealing with flooding issues from this beaver dam right here. And it was affecting how they could access their land. So that was the number one reason that they called us, because digging it out was not working for them anymore. So this right here, if you could see my mouse, this is an old beaver dam, and they dug it out. And this whole area used to be underwater. You can see how far they've brought the water level down here. It was huge. Loss of water here, and it really damaged the wetland environment here. There's a beaver hut, I like to call it a lodge, but a beaver hut here in the middle that has been abandoned. You can see that the water level has actually come down below where the beavers enter their lodge, so they abandoned it. So this is a case of where they brought the water level down too low and actually harmed the beaver population. When we were touring the site with Billy, he did mention that like this was something that he wasn't necessarily proud of. Once they did this, they seen a significant decrease in the amount of waterfowl that were visiting in the fall and the spring. They see less wildlife because they have less water there. So they were really kind of concerned about this, that it got rid of the beavers, but they also lost a lot of wildlife, and they are avid hunters and outdoor enthusiasts. So they wanted a solution that would keep the wildlife around. This is the county road here, and this is the outflow. caused by this. Just the other side of the county road, a little coulee actually starts. So we're really fortunate here that our neighbors to the west, which is the way that the water flows, that they can take the water. There's not a flooding risk downstream from them. Like I said, it's a little coulee kind of starts up and it goes down into a bigger coulee that then enters the Peace River. So this is looking from the west to the east. So this is the Beaver Dam right here at the very bottom that we put the pond leveler in. So you can see that water is backed up here. And if it kind of comes around the corner through the trees and into this area back here where the flooding was happening in the spring, and then the flooding was backing up into the county ditch and affecting neighbors to the northeast. So this is the dam that we decided to put the pond leveler in. We felt that it had the highest impact as far as flooding goes, as well as if we can get some water flowing back into this pond to kind of rehabilitate the wetland here. We felt that this was our higher priority for the leveler. So you can see here, this is kind of a top-down view of the dam and the pond. There is a little trench here that Billy actually dug out by hand. He was very, very dedicated to keeping this cleaned out to keep this draining for the beavers. So we were actually quite fortunate once we got down there. This is from on top of the Beaver Dam. It's an absolutely gorgeous spot. It's lovely. There's birds chirping everywhere. It's just a place where you just want to sit in a lawn chair and just relax with a book or a beer or whatever you like to do. It's a beautiful little spot. It's quiet and just serene. It's absolutely gorgeous down here. Billy had lots of stories about like seeing moose just across here and wildlife. It frequents the area. So we really wanted to maintain that. And we were also fortunate in that we didn't really want to bring the water level down any further than it was. We felt that this was a good level to have this pond. Any higher was going to cause flooding. As you can see, it's not backing up right here. So we're very fortunate that that we didn't have to lower the pond much. So this is the trench that Billy dug out. He had cleaned it out the morning before this picture was taken. So this was cleared out and a beaver had came and was trying to plug the hole back up. So they are very, very quick little engineers and it's very hard to keep ahead of them this way. So that's why he called us. He wanted to try and work with them and we're going to try and trick them with a pond leveler so that they quit messing with our water management strategy here. So this is when we installed our pond leveler. So this was a piece of Boss 2000 pipe. They are a rigid pipe. However, you just cut with like a circular saw, just cut a strip down the top so that the air bubbles can get out of these little ridges, and then it just sinks right to the bottom and it gets really flexible. This pipe is pretty cheap. All in all, we got I had purchased I think 60 feet worth of pipe and it cost me $700. So it's not terrible as far as price goes, especially when you consider an excavator to rent is about $150 an hour. So it's not that bad to put this stuff in. So like I said, we weren't going to lower the pond any more than what it was. So the current level, we had to dig out just a little bit to get this pipe to fit into the dam. But we were very fortunate that we didn't have to start right from scratch and that Billy had done a lot of the work for us. So Billy and Diane were in there like dirty shirts, really excited to help out with this and get their little habitat back. So that's it completed. We had kind of filled in the gaps here with some sticks and some mud and kind of helped the beaver get back to patching up the little bit of hole that we did have there. So that's the final product. These posts here, we put these in just to try and keep the leveler down. There was still a bit of air bubbling out of the pipes. So it was just there to try and keep it sunk in the bottom of the pond here. And this is our crew. This is me here on the end. This is Becky. This is Becky's summer student that she had come out to help us out. And then Billy and Diane and their doggo. He's really cute. So it was a really awesome project. Really awesome landowners. We couldn't ask for nicer people to be working with. So we had some lessons learned through this project. And that was that agriculture producers are interested in alternative low impact ways to manage floodwater caused by beavers. They don't want to have flooding caused by beavers. And we were very active on social media with this project. And out of that activity on social media, we actually received 15 calls from producers looking for information on pond levelers. And we actually have 3 project sites lined up for this fall. So as far as that goes, it was a super successful project. We were very happy with since we were not able to host an event due to COVID, just the social media activity and talking to neighbors, talking to each other, we did get a lot of traction out of it. And it was really exciting to see that traction. This biggest lesson that we learned, though, is that it's easier to work with a landowner who's willing to try something new. Pre-screening your collaborating landowners goes a long way. Like I said before, we kind of had someone in mind, but when we reached out to them, it was just a no. They were not willing to try it. And if they're not willing to try it, they're not willing to maintain it. And we're very confident that Billy and Diane are going to maintain this. They want to maintain that wildlife habitat. And we're really, really confident that this is going to be a successful project here. So just a huge thank you to the Land Stewardship Center for funding this project through the Watershed Stewardship Grant. And of course, Northern Sunrise County and Becky for all the work that you put into this and all the in-kind support. And yeah, so that's kind of the end. It's really quick. Here's some really great links that I can share with Marie to send out later. Yeah. And with that, I'd like to finish it off. And I see that Becky has her hand up.
Hi, great presentation, Katie. Thank you. So I can give you a bit of an update of what's happening out at Serene there.
Yes, please.
So they
Becky.
sent me a picture, and I'm sorry, I thought that I had forwarded it to you. So the pipe was running this spring.
Mm-hmm.
So they sent a picture. They had to do a little bit of maintenance, but it was minimal and it was running. The ephemeral waterway through the field, those 2 acres have been entered into the Alice program, and we're going to do like delayed haying on them. Also, the large pond by the roadway, that's recharged, and the beavers have moved back in there, Katie. So we are successful in what we're doing.
So wonderful. Thank you so much, Becky.
Yeah.
I haven't made it out there, so that's wonderful.
Okay, yeah. And the ephemeral waterway on the cropland, because of the pipe in there, it did not flood this year.
Yay.
So that's changing that dynamic already. And the wetland, it's in the Alice program, and I believe there's 8 acres there that's being entered into it. So it will just be allowed to rejuvenate naturally. So yeah, great success, wonderful partnership. And I look forward to doing a whole bunch more, because I've also received quite a bit of interest from our social media. So yeah, it's excellent. Thanks, Katie. And great presentation.
Yes. Thank you, Becky, for that update. That was wonderful.
If anyone has any questions for Katie, please feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask Katie directly. Or like I said at the beginning, if you're feeling shy, you can use the chat box too, but we'd love to hear your voice. So if anybody has questions, please speak up.
Katie, where do you buy this pipe?
So most places where you can purchase culvert, you can purchase this from. So this pipe was actually bought in Peace River from Prospector Pipe. But like I said, most dealers that deal in culverts can get this stuff. It's called Boss 2000 pipe.
What, could you spell that?
BOSS 2000. I'll put it in the chat as well.
Just like it sounds.
Just like it sounds.
I must disagree with you about the benefit of beaver. When I was young, there were no beaver in our area. And we did have biodiversity. And we didn't have water washing things out. Mm-hmm. Things worked well, but it's been a nightmare with these beaver. I had to hire the county in to get a huge amount of land that was flooded, they drained, and they took 40 beaver out the first year, and then last year there was another 25, and had to blast the dams. So they're invading us unbelievably. So I have a large slough next to the bird sanctuary, and I would like to put in one of these levelers. So, because I'm worried my land is going to flood. Even I get rid of dams, it's building up so much on the sanctuary that I'm afraid my land is going to flood again.
Mhm.
So I'm not, I know biologists are all gung-ho for beaver, but I've seen what it's like without beaver as well.
Mhm. Yeah, so it sounds like you have some traveling beaver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could interject for a moment, I believe that there's a young gentleman on the line here today that can assist with pond levelers. So if anybody's interested, just reach out to me and I can forward the information.
You bet.
He can help install. Okay.
You bet. And as far as beavers go, I'm not a biologist. I am a farmer. But that's just it. I
You
have
sound like one.
Yeah, I have a Rolodex. I am an extension agent, and I'm jack of all trades, master of none, right? So we would definitely get in touch with us, and I will do and between Becky, myself, and my other contacts, we will definitely be able to get you in touch with someone.
Well, I'm willing to do the work. It looks simple to do. It's just that I was searching for pipe and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When you purchase this pipe, it is rigid, like those. But that stuff. Like those. I'm just gonna bring it up here because I have a hard time explaining it. Is that these little ridges here? Those are just hollow. They're full of air. So once you get the air out of there, they will bend, and they will work. But yeah, I believe that
Must not be steel though.
No, it's plastic.
Yeah, double wall
Plastic pipe.
Yeah, well, I'll be glad to find out where I can get some.
You betcha. We'll put together some resources for you, Ron.
Thank you.
Ron, it would be good to hear how it goes once you do install that pond leveler on your place. I'd love to hear how it works out for you.
Well, they backed up a huge slough already. There's 2 beaver homes on it. So there's lots of water in my land already. I can't have any more. Yeah. I do have to farm. I need to sell some hay.
Yeah, definitely. Well, maybe this is a solution. It's going to be interesting to see if it works for you. I was chatting with Megan in the chat box as well, and Megan is from Lac St. Anne County, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and Megan has also been doing a little bit of work with pond levelers, so she wanted to share some of her findings as well. So let's open it up to Megan too.
Okay, thanks very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I am a biologist, just so you guys know that, full disclosure coming in. I do work closely with our animal control officers. So Lac St. Anne County is about an hour and 20 minutes northwest of Edmonton. And we've got over 100,000 acres of wetlands, and it is an ongoing battle between road infrastructure, farming, and beavers. So we have 2 full-time animal control officers that their full-time job is to shoot or trap out beavers and blast dams. And then we kind of, in areas where we basically can't get ahead of the beavers, where we have the same ranger township roads washing out year after year, we have installed pond levelers, not to 100% success. They can be a bit finicky, and we've actually only used the rigid structure pipe, and we bought it from Armtech in Redwater. I can drop that in the chat box, but it's like, we would describe it as a success for sure. I'm not sure if I can share my screen here, but I'll try and pull up a few photos if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Okay, so it's never the worst day installing them. It's lucky that you guys got a dam that was dug out ahead of you. So this is that wonderful experience. So this was right off Range Road 20 that it has washed out 30 years in a row. Like, we would have an excavator out there at least 5 times a year, which is about $1,000 a pop. So we were our animal control officer actually recommended we put one in here. And so we put it in at the end of 2018. That's me digging away. And the landowner had attempted to put their own in with this flexible pipe, and you could tell it's just wasn't quite wide enough. You couldn't get the water to move off of it. But we got it in, and we haven't had to repair that road since. So overall, we would call it a good experience. They're not for everywhere and for everyone, but in places that the channel is relatively straight and deep and the beaver can't figure out how to plug up the back end, they've worked for us. So yeah, that's our experience with pond levelers. I think we have about 7 in the county, and we've done them mostly as Alice projects.
How do you stop them from plugging up the back end?
Yeah, so the back end, so we use hog panels, wrapped it around, wired that all together, and then you actually sink it upstream. So if it's shallow enough, you can walk in chest waders, but often we have to use a canoe. And so very carefully, like angle out this 40-foot pipe and then tie cinder blocks to it on the intake end right next to the cage, sink the cage. Also very important to cut the first layer of plastic so the air bubbles can come out. Yeah, so then we sunk the back end, and so far the beaver, because it's 2 20-foot pipes, so the beaver haven't figured out like where to plug it because it's just too far back, so you're not getting that whirling motion where the beaver can figure out where the water's coming from.
What do you call the back end?
Like where the cage is.
In the pond or?
Yeah, where the cage is in the pond.
What about where the water's exiting?
Oh, right through the dam. Yeah, that's
Katie, you had a really great graphic that showed that kind of showed it. Maybe you could pop that up on your screen again while making this chat.
You betcha.
That might be helpful, Ron, for you to see a visual here.
That's where I think it would be plugging up on the exit end.
Yeah, so the beavers always build from the high water side, right? They can't work against gravity. So we've definitely covered it up and basically put logs over it. And so beaver try to figure out, but they only build from the high water side in our experience. So they haven't been able to plug the front end. Yeah, that's what I was calling the front end. So the beaver will always basically take wood from the higher water, use gravity, and keep piling on the left-hand side of the beaver dam. So far, we haven't had any beavers figure out how to cover up or block the right-hand side.
That's what worried me, is that they might hear water running there and want to do something with it.
And I see Devin posted some contact info in the chat box too. They help people with pond leveler projects. So thank you, Devin, for sharing that info.
So I'm not sure if you can see, so here's the pipe right in the middle here. We just tossed a couple of sticks underneath, and that's where it goes into the water. That's one cinder block, and the cage is basically straight further back. And you can tell this dam was quite a bit thinner, and the beaver has continued to pile on from the higher water end, but they haven't been able to figure it out.
I'm just going to go through the chat box here. I think there was a question from Joan saying that they have a problem on their land with beavers removing the trees in the area, especially the young saplings. And she was just wondering if anyone had any tips for stopping that activity. How do you stop them from removing some of those trees in that area if you're wanting to keep them?
So we're not in the peace area, and I'm trying to show my picture, but it doesn't matter. I'm okay with the letter J there. But we're actually in Rocky View County, and I have a biology background, which I'm not working as a biologist right now, but we have a farm ranch kind of thing in the Rocky View County, but we have a problem with beavers in that they're cutting the young saplings, and they take them down like a 60-foot bank, and they figure they're gonna dam up the Bow River. Of course, they're never gonna succeed with that, but there is some areas that they're able to swim across to the other side and make their little dens or whatever. But is there any way we can protect these trees or the saplings? And I know, sometimes they'll trap the beavers. I'm not sure who does that, but they can really cause a lot of damage in an area, unfortunately. And if you're able to get someone to trap them, do they take them elsewhere, or what do they do? Has anybody got any ideas on that?
For me, they were killed. They're using a humane trap. They're gone as soon as the trap is I forget what they call them. They're very powerful trap. The beavers immediately killed. There's no use taking them elsewhere. It's going to hurt somebody else.
So one of the things with the pond leveler pilot project, Katie, that you found was that you were not having to resort to some of these methods with like getting like you said, the excavator is like a huge cost, whether it's a farmer having to bring that in, or if it's the county going around and dealing with all these beaver dams across their area that they're responsible for, but also for the trapping of the beavers too. It solves that issue as well, correct? You're finding that wasn't so much a problem with the pond levelers?
I mean, that's the point. Yeah, I know that in a lot of the research that I've done on it, like I said, I'm not a super expert. This was a learning experience, but in a lot of the reading that I have done though, is that if you're lowering the pond like by a certain, I believe it's 2 feet, by anything more than 2 feet, then you're going to have to remove beavers, because you are you're decreasing their habitat size, so that then they're going to try to expand it. So that in a lot of the research I did is that when you see that mass deforestation, I'm going to call it, is that they're trying to build habitat, that they're trying to get enough materials together to stop enough water to rebuild their habitat. So in a lot of the situations where we see, blown out dams or removing them with an excavator or something, is that you've destroyed their home and they're trying to rebuild it. Yeah, that's a lot of the research that I've seen. Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've read.
Well, even when I was not taking them out, they just keep raising the dam higher and higher and higher, so they can go farther and farther to where the trees are growing.
Yeah. So, Katie, like you were saying, I think that makes a lot of sense, that if these practices that we're using, it's like they're all centered around like destroying the beaver dam. And we were talking about how do we stop some of this like young sapling damage and tree damage? That makes a lot of sense, that if we find a new way of mitigating that flooding through pond levelers, then there's not that need to get more trees to do those repairs. So it's interesting. I mean, I think with the beavers and how they affect farmland, it can be quite a complex problem. And there's a lot of different ways of solving that problem. But this pond leveler solution is a great way to do that with minimal impact on the ecosystem that we're trying to maintain, and the biodiversity that we're trying to protect in these areas. So it's a really interesting solution, and it's so exciting to see the success that you've had, and just the interest that people are interested, because I think a lot of people are trying all these different ways and they're still frustrated, and they're still like, it's not a perfect solution. So I think that it's great to try. On the scale of the other things that you can do, it's relatively inexpensive too. So it's quite promising.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all in on our project, at that one project site, we were 1 day's worth of work with 3 people, and all in, we were $700. So, and even if like there's no such thing as a silver bullet, I think when it comes to this stuff, there's no such thing as a maintenance free thing where you just one and done.
Yeah.
But it's, as far as effort goes, I think it's worth a try.
What are the maintenance requirements?
So, yeah, absolutely.
I've got a photo here, but I'm on my phone, so I'm not exactly sure how Zoom works. So if I share it, I think it might blank you out, but it's from this spring at the Serenes there.
Yes.
Okay. Is it okay if I share?
Give her, Becky.
Okay.
Yeah, but when it comes to maintenance, a lot of the people I've talked to about these pond levelers is that the maintenance is keeping that outflow clear where it's coming out of the dam, is just to make sure that area is clear and that they're not attempting to plug it. And of course, the intake that's out in the pond too. So, oh, that's awesome, Becky, that we can see you.
Good.
Yeah, see.
Or you can you see if I zoom?
You bet.
So yeah, it was flowing, and they said very minimal. They really didn't have to do much this spring at all. So
yeah,
we're pretty happy. So
that's perfect.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Those are pretty little ponds compared to what I've got to deal with.
Well, we can start though. We got to start somewhere.
Well, I agree. That's why I'm interested in this.
That's
I
awesome.
think it's a good
So
idea.
This is great.
It's
It
just-
is. And yeah, it's very effective. So thank you for wanting to participate and coexist. So I think we can do this.
Yeah, one of our project sites for this fall, actually, it is a 230-foot dam that we're looking at. It's huge, absolutely massive. There's 3 lodges in this pond. They've actually blocked off a creek. They have stopped a creek, and we have about 12 miles worth of impact upstream. And yeah, so we're looking to work with Cows and Fish and bringing in some other big organizations to work on this. And we're actually looking at putting in multiple levelers in that dam because it's so huge and we have to move a lot of water. So
that'll be great to see how that works out for you too, because to see it on a larger scale, I think that will help like people like Ron who say, I have a huge problem.
Yes. So stay tuned for that one. Yeah, it's really exciting.
My
I'm
dam
really
is
excited
at
to carry
least
into
that
it.
big.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing how that works out for you. And I think this whole discussion just highlights like how frustrating beavers can be for farmers. It's like you can't have this conversation without people saying like, like this is just really, really hard. So yeah, this is just a great option. I think that saves potentially can save farmers time and money in the long run and protect the biodiversity of their land. And so we're really looking forward to seeing how the project continues. I mean, you started it as just a pilot project, Katie, and now it's really grown. So there's definitely a demand for it. And yeah, if it didn't work, you wouldn't have that interest in the project, I don't think so. Does anybody else have questions here before we wrap things up, or comments or pictures to share? It was great to get so much interaction today.
They're not considered a pest, are they? Like some things, yeah, that's the bit of the issue, is that you can't just go around and it's not like the wolves that they were killing cattle and things like that. They're changing the landscape the way that they want it so they can have more dams and build the landscape the way they want it, but they're not considered a nuisance or a pest because they don't kill cattle.
And if you can't pasture, you can't have the cattle.
Are they not kind of protected in that way? So basically, I know near Calgary, I think you have to live trap them. I could be wrong, but they have to be, I don't think you can just go and kill them.
Well, we better be able to, because there must be 100,000 out our way.
Yeah, I think when it comes to control, such as that, Joan, I think that's a municipality call.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that it's a municipal call there. I know that there's some around here that we're actually paying for beaver tails. So I do believe that's a question for your local municipality.
It depends what the municipality says on it. Okay.
Yeah,
I believe that's where I'd go, is get in touch with your manager of egg services for your municipality.
Okay. Super, thank you.
Well, thanks for your patience with me. I know I've been hoarding this issue, but
not at all, Ron. Thank you for your questions. Like I said at the beginning, if you have questions, ask them, because it helps everybody's learning. So we really appreciate everybody speaking up. And I'm looking forward to, if you are, you're here because you're interested in pond levelers. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it works for you on your property. You'll have to keep in touch with us there.
well, if I can find the pipe, I know where I can get wire, but it's.
So I think we have a few good resources here in the chat box that different places that you can get that, and you have a few new faces too that you can contact for help and advice as well. So that's great. And Katie, thank you so much for your presentation and for all the work that you do up your way, and for sharing it with us. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Megan, too, for sharing what you're doing in your area. And to everybody who contributed to the call, thank you again, everyone, so much. And last chance, if anybody has a question or comments, I'll open up the floor here. Then we will call it a day, and I'll wish everyone
a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Marie, for the invitation. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. It was a wonderful discussion. I've never been on a webinar that had this much discussion. So that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, no, thank you everyone for your contributions. It was great. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. If you'd like to learn more about what we can do for your part of rural Alberta, please visit our website at rr2cs.ca.